So, folks, Charlie Kirk had a segment that he did titled, Am I Anti-Semitic? 25 Gen Z students plus Charlie Kirk discuss Israel, Netanyahu, Gaza, and AIPAC, right? And I figured, hey, let's dive into that. Let's see how that goes for him. Okay, let's see how this discussion goes for Charlie Kirk. And for some reason, this is the opening frame of the video. And I just gotta say right off the bat, this looks like it's fucking AI. I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk is using AI ads for his stuff now.
Imagine this banana is a burner less lethal launcher, capable of shooting rock-hard kinetic and tear gas mixed with pepper chemical irritant.
For example, why is there like a weird stem on the end of this? Like, that's a nasty-ass banana if it's not AI.
The ammo can incapacitate an attacker from 60 feet away without causing death.
This burner less lethal launcher is legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, I don't think the AI actually knows how to render a banana. That's crazy, dog.
No permits required.
Over 600,000 Byrna pistol launchers have been sold to government agencies, law enforcement agencies, and to private citizens.
Do you want to know what the Byrna less lethal launcher looks like? Visit Byrna.com.
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, wow. Hello, Cenk Uygur. Fancy seeing you here, laundering Charlie Kirk's fascism and Christian nationalism. That's crazy. Almost like everyone who told you to not do that told you would happen. It's crazy.
Kirk has had a massive pro-Israel bias his entire career.
Charlie Kirk is so biased. He's a total Zionist psychopath.
It's almost like the allegiance to it.
He is such a big forehead.
Other country is more than the United States.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
stand that.
Charlie Kirk is playing up anti-Semitic tropes.
He was accused of critiquing Israel's actions in Gaza during this summit.
Charlie Kirk is supposed to be a Christian conservative. This is just...
Well, he's a Christian nationalist. He caters to a highly evangelical base. He's a Zionist who wants to put all of the Jews in Israel and then cause Armageddon to fulfill the prophecy of Revelation. That is what he wants to do.
Excuse to spout anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism.
I think there are a lot of people who are becoming more anti-Semitic because they want to be a part of something and then just get sucked in.
Oh no, Cenk Uygur, what a fucking nightmare.
Indeed, Lady Raincloud. Thank you for the $5 dono.
I believe Israel is sacred while simultaneously saying we should stop involving.
As if maybe Mossad was a part of things that we don't know about. Reminds me of the CIA.
I don't think that is how an ally treats an ally.
I'm told that if I criticize AIPAC, I'm anti-Semitic.
If you're going to say I hate Jews over and over and over again, if I'm going to be convicted of the crime, I might as well do the crime.
Whoa there, buddy. You guys are all accusing me of it being an anti-Semite. I might as well be an anti-Semite. Huh? What if I dropped some slurs about them, huh? Would that make you happy? You're all calling me anti-Semitic. I've become the monster you want me to be. Like, this is nuts. This is like a child's conception of the world.
Okay, everybody, you're about to watch a discussion with several Turning Point USA chapter leaders from across the country.
Oh boy, question: do they message the N-word to each other a lot? Because I remember certain chapter leaders in the past getting busted for that.
It is a spirited discussion about Israel, about AIPAC.
I'm sorry, bitch, are you wearing a plastic cowboy hat? This is not I don't think that's a real cowboy hat.
A little about immigration, about housing. It is real, it's raw, and it's gonna probably bother people on all sides. But honestly, it shouldn't, because this is what's called a focus group. This is about getting down to what the consensus of this generation is. And I think towards the end of the conversation, we come to a really good path forward. One that obviously rejects all the Jew hate, but one that also says, you know what? You're not an anti-Semite if you question the current Israeli government. Our producer, The Charlie Kirk Show, producer Andrew, helps me navigate this conversation. Text this to your friends and share it. And if you seek to actually understand what Gen Z thinks about Israel, not these anonymous TikTok comments or not what you see on X, these are real people, they're real conservatives, many of which are real Christians, and they'll tell you exactly what they think about the hottest issue happening, I guess, on the planet that we're talking about. Watch this, learn, and if you get a little fired up, watch to the end, because I think you're going to love every minute of it. We're going to play a word association test. What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear Israel?
Judaism.
Aid.
Aid.
Netanyahu.
Tax dollars.
Liability.
Sacred.
Tax dollars.
Conflict.
Complex.
Controversial.
Scary.
Strategic. Mossad.
So Mossad, of all the different things that would come to mind, why does their intelligence service come to mind?
Reminds me of the CIA. You know, it has the CIA, you have the CIA involved.
You know, just as an FYI, the question about Charlie Kirk, am I anti-Semitic? I just want you all to know, Charlie Kirk is on the record as saying Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. That's just one of the things Charlie Kirk has said about Jewish people over the years. And like, yeah, he's an anti-Semite. You don't say, yeah, Jewish people are, spreading hatred against the white race while trying to shield themselves from the same hatred. You don't say that unless you're an anti-Semite. Like, goddamn.
With RFK, I mean, there's rumors going around maybe Mossad was a part of the Epstein files, if maybe Mossad was a part of things that we don't know about. And they're just like the Central Intelligence Agency, they are out there doing things that none of us know about.
So to say Mossad first, that would basically imply your first impression is one of doubt. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
When you hear like Epstein, right, do you connect the Epstein issue immediate, like first connection in your mind, that's also connected to Mossad and Israel, or they feel separate in your mind?
Separate.
I think there's a growing consensus that there's a connection there among Gen Z.
Yeah, I think that's definitely gaining velocity. Who used the word aid? You did. Why did that come to mind first?
It's very similar to our support for Ukraine. We're sending a lot of money over there, not really getting, in my opinion, a huge return on investment. And so that's like the first thing that comes to mind, because when people talk about their distrust or dissupport for Israel, that's the first thing that usually comes up is all the money that we're sending them.
I think we have a lot bigger issues at home. I think we should be spending most of our tax dollars on...
Sorry, I forgot to switch back to the show.
Securing our border, keeping our home people safe, rather than, we've seen illegal immigration that Joe Biden let through our southern border come in, and we've seen thousands of Americans die because of it. I think we have a much bigger problem on the home front rather than sending money to foreign countries.
I think it's critical that we remain friends with them. They remain our ally. I just don't think we should be subsidizing them as much as we are.
When you talk about return on investment, I think that's an interesting way to frame it. The supporters of Israel will say they're doing a lot of America's dirty work, from intelligence gathering, things like that, within the Middle East. Is that compelling to you? Are you persuaded by that argument?
The reason why I'm not super persuaded is it's mostly because of
this guy's wearing a real cowboy hat.
Recently, we were kind of drug into it. We were negotiating, we were having negotiations, and then they killed the people we were negotiating with, and it kind of derailed everything and sped up the conflict a little bit.
Oh my God, yes, that is accurate, actually. That is actually what happened. Israel forced a conflict with Iran. Yes, we found a couple conservatives who actually give a shit about what's going on. It's nuts.
Was the State Department's stated goal that we were working on negotiations with Iran. You can say they wouldn't have panned out. You can say that maybe they were imminently about to collapse, but we were still in active negotiation, and yet Israel launches Operation Rising Lion to go in and strike Iran while we are mid-negotiation.
How many of you guys would say you think Israel got us into that conflict? You would say yes? You would not say so much?
I think we were willing to join that conflict. I don't think we were pulled in unwantingly as if we were dragged by a leash, in more uncertain terms. I think we have the authority and the say of whether or not we want to be involved in that conflict. And I think we saw the prosperity that we would unleash if we joined the conflict.
When you think about Israel's history in the region...
We saw the prosperity we would unleash if we joined the conflict? That's a deeply weird way of phrasing that.
And even with Hamas or Iran, these nations have sworn to destroy and annihilate the nation of Israel, right? At what point does it become, given the context, at what point are you going to be okay, or would you never be okay with the U.S. defending Israel's right to exist and essentially saving the country.
I think they absolutely, I mean, first and foremost, they have a right to exist. They have a right to defend themselves. That's not the my issue with it. I can kind of give an analogy is that our house is burning down and so is our neighbors, and we're trying to put their fire out before we put ours out. That's kind of how I view it.
So when you guys find out, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you find out that we're basically every year we send about almost $4 billion to Israel, does that make you upset, or do you understand it given that they're under sort of crisis ongoing?
I would say upset, and the amount over since 1948, it amounts to 319 billion adjusted to inflation. And I'd say that I can think of multiple things that we could have spent at home that would have been a better allocation of our taxpayer dollars. And I feel like this money.
I would love, right, for some of these, younger conservatives to say specifically, what do they think those tax dollars should be spent on, right? I would love like a specific like specific programs, specific ideas, because like we could just reallocate funding right now to spend on like housing veterans. That's usually a pretty popular policy among conservatives. But like, what do they actually prioritize when they think about domestic spending? Because I hear almost nothing from conservatives about what kinds of programs they think would actually help people. And I'm kind of curious, like, what do you want to have spent this on the entire time? Is it just all police? You want $300 billion spent on the police? You want a domestic army to like black bag people off the streets? Like, what do you want? Like, what does this look like to you?
It could have been well spent in supporting an economy that would support our generation being able to afford homes rather than military strikes for Israel.
What else? What would you want to see?
Again, like I want to know, what does that, how do you get to the more affordable homes from this conservative mindset, right? Usually that just translates to you give government contracts to like building companies and then they build whatever the hell they want.
From their government. If their government came out and said, we have a 5-year plan to decouple from U.S. aid, would that help people's view of Israel? If they said, hey, we want to be self-reliant.
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
Do you think that would help?
Yes.
If they're like, thank you for the help since 19...
Wait, but we aren't... okay, I'm pretty sure... I'm not an expert on this, but I'm pretty sure U.S. aid... Wait.
Self-reliant.
Yes, 100%.
Would that help people's view of Israel?
Yeah, so he's talking about U.S. aid, and I'm guessing like this is confusing because there's an agency called U.S. aid. So if we're giving supplies via U.S. aid, like food, medical supplies, I have no problem with that going to any country on earth. When we're talking about, however, bombs, yeah, we cut off that supply of bombs and ammunition. Absolutely. Yeah. And I understand that he means aid from the US. Yeah. But also their popular punching bag has been USAID, the organization, you know?
If they said, hey, we want to be self-reliant.
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
Do you think that would help?
Yes.
If they're like, thank you for the help since 1948. We're a rich country. We've balanced our budget. We have money in our sovereign wealth fund, which they actually do. Thank you. We're now going to decouple over the next 5 years and basically transition. Do you think that people would think higher of Israel? At least we'd stop talking about it so much. Yep. Would you put that like as a primary?
I would say like that can kind of follow up with a lot of other things, like a lot of other like even European nations. Like I feel like they were kind of like, even Trump had to like kind of even out NATO so that everyone was kind of paying the same, not the same amount, obviously, 5%, yeah, but it just because like nobody wants a lot of Americans do not want people freeloading off the United States.
And as you said, 319 billion being sent to Israel over all these years, that's comparable to the...
You know, I just have to point this out, right? One of the reasons why the United States spent so much more on NATO is so that European nations would be more reliant on the military-industrial complex in the United States, i.e. there would be more jobs and more manufacturing being done in the United States to supply weaponry to those countries. That benefits like the US economy in a general sense, which is one of the reasons why we did that, right? It wasn't freeloading, it was a handout to the military-industrial complex of the United States.
we've sent to Ukraine, and there's been a lot of controversy over that, and yet not as much over Israel. And people are judged very heavily if they critique that aid that is given to Israel. I think I'm pro-Israel. I support them. I believe Israel has a right to exist. I believe that they are the only state in that region with the right to exist. But why are we?
Why? I want you to elaborate on that idea. Like, oh man, I would love to be in a room with these people and like just pick their brains. Like, why do you think that? Why do you think that Israel is the only state with the right to exist in the region? Like, just straight up, like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, like these countries don't deserve to exist. I'm wondering here, like, in his mind, what gives a nation the right to exist, right? Because in a realpolitik sense, like in a geopolitics, there is no really right to exist. There is the power to exist, right? If you have the power to exist, you just exist. And so, like, to me, like, the question, does Israel have the right to exist? It's an irrelevant one because Israel does exist and it has the power to maintain that existence, right? Similarly to these other nations that are around Israel, they have the right to exist because they have the might necessary to make it so, at least in a general sense. So I just find it a very interesting statement coming from a conservative because it does kind of seem like a green light to like go ahead with expansionist projects to like seize land from other surrounding nations to build the Greater Israel Project. I just find it interesting, right?
We treating them differently than any other ally? Should we not be judging them, holding them to the same standard?
Your view is articulated by a lot of young people and held by a lot of young people, because let's now take a step back and let's now broaden it. How many of you guys think when a lawmaker, and a man I respect like Ted Cruz, uses the Bible to justify aid to Israel, doesn't even know the verse, do you guys think that's like not the best way to approach this? Raise your hand. Okay.
I think Ted Cruz is generous.
See, this is the thing, right? Charlie Kirk recently went on Tucker Carlson. I think there is like this schism that is forming within the Republican Party along this line about like extreme isolationism and Christian nationalism versus loyalty to Trump, right? I think the rough outline of the schism exists now. You can see the pundits and the organizations that fall on either side of this. And it's going to be very, very interesting when Trump, as we get closer to Trump no longer being the president, to see how these power dynamics play out. Because you can see these orgs and these people positioning themselves for that eventual like decline in the personality cult. And I find it fascinating.
This is 12:3. I think a lot of people see that as off-putting when you look at the New Testament.
Why?
Because I think a lot of people, they look especially at the writings of Paul, where he talks about how the new flesh is not the same as the people in the Old Covenant. The new flesh is everybody, is everyone's included.
You're talking about Romans 9?
Yes, 9:6, yeah.
Are you Catholic?
Converting Catholic from
Judaism.
I can tell.
This is my next
Oh, from Judaism?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you're you're ethnically Jewish.
Ethnically Jewish, yes.
And you have concerns about AIPAC.
Yes, I do.
I'm told that by some people that if I criticize AIPAC, I'm anti-Semitic.
I think it's ridiculous, yeah. I feel like it's great to have a concern for your country.
Do you think that that AIPAC represents, again, I'm not saying I believe.
Also, you can have concern. This is the important thing, the important distinction that people just continually miss. Criticizing a state is not the same as bigotry towards a people. These are not the same things. A state is not a religion. A state is not any one ethnic group. A state is not a race. These things are not the same. So, worth pointing out that by itself, criticizing AIPAC or the nation of Israel and its policies, these are not anti-Semitic.
But I think this is what you're saying, that it represents a kind of cutting in line of prioritization away from the American people.
Yes.
Would you guys say that's a fair summary?
100%.
Meaning that, like, okay, we vote, we're citizens, but a separate.
Why, like the cuts are weird in this because clearly at different points in time in this discussion, different people are sitting next to Charlie Kirk, and it's just weird to see them cycle through without any seeming rhyme or reason. It's
Group
really stitched
gets
together.
higher priority because of whatever reasons. You look like you want to chime in.
That the entirety of the idea of a pack is to represent a group, but the fact that we're allowing a group that doesn't even represent American interests to influence the people who are supposed to be representing us, I have a huge problem with. And that's why I've said this before, and a lot of people don't like when I say it. I actually think there's probably like 20 representatives between Senate and House who I think are actually fully doing the work of the American people and don't have the interests of some group.
Yeah, you're right. We should ban lobbying. We should overturn Citizens United and ban lobbying. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Their sway. But when you hear that lots of other countries also are lobbying, do you think, I mean, that you probably don't know the names of those countries, but it's happening. Does that upset you equally, or is AIPAC just get all the press because it's so top of mind?
If those other ones are doing the same thing, of course. I do not think that other countries should be telling us how to spend, telling our representatives and people who are here to represent all of us that they should be focusing outside of the United States.
America first.
Thank you.
I find prophecy as policy generally to be theologically problematic. I mean, there's plenty of things that the Bible says that have been done.
Charlie's face, look at that.
To be theologically problematic. I mean, there's plenty of things.
Props to this guy for saying something he almost certainly knew would not go over well with this particular crowd of people. Like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't put our religious prophecies front and center when we're trying to do foreign policy. It's probably not good.
The Bible says that have been done throughout parts of history that certainly a nation state doing today we would see as a bit of a problem. When it comes to sending these, what you said, $300 billion
just with the inflation,
to any foreign country, all I can think about is across our own southern border, we have an actual military in the form of the cartel that kill thousands of people.
The cartels are not a military. They have guys with guns. They are not a coherent military force.
And that's leaving out the hundreds of thousands of Americans that have died to drug overdoses due to drugs that have come across our southern border. And it's insulting that money goes.
Like to understand that would be like saying every gang in America is aligned as a military force against the US government. And like, no, gang violence, they fight each other. It's very similar with the cartels. They are a bit more militarized, but they mostly are fighting each other or the Mexican government. They're not, they don't have the coherency to be able to invade America
anywhere else because we have such a huge problem here.
Yeah, I want to kind of flip this word association game around just slightly because we haven't done it yet. When I bring up Gaza, Gazans, Hamas, let's just keep Hamas out of it. Gaza and Gazans. What comes to mind?
Complicated.
Life.
Destruction.
I'd say differences.
Perish.
What is the impression that you guys have of what's been happening in Gaza? It doesn't have to be a singular word.
I would say like a severe loss of life. I feel like that's always a bad thing, no matter which way you look at it, no matter who's, basically no matter who's dying, it's never really a good thing.
And you said perish. So would you say that on social media you see a lot of maybe kids dying or death and destruction? Is that getting fed into your algorithms a lot?
Yes, and actually on our school's campus, they'll have these little missing.
Damn, even the young conservatives are like coming together and being like, yeah, that looks like massacres, all right, at the very least.
Kid posters, and in those posters they'll read about these kids who have died. They try to have us to have more sympathy for them. And it's like, at the end of the day, as you had mentioned, they are humans. We already have sympathy for them.
So on campus, now let's do.
One would hope that the mere commonality of us being humans together would, in fact, engender a little bit of sympathy. However, there are a lot of people who view Palestinians as subhuman and deserving of death. There are still people out there today who argue that.
Something we haven't done. Has there been any awareness for the Israeli hostages? Is that?
No.
I think that's also important to talk about, right? I mean,
or the 1,200 plus that were massacred that day.
I'm pretty sure there's an awful lot of awareness of the 1,200 who were killed, as well as the hostages. There's a lot of awareness about that. And if you look into that, you'll also be aware that Benjamin Netanyahu has basically said, yeah, returning the hostages isn't going to end the war. We're going to make sure we bomb everything in Gaza into dust, despite the fact that that might also kill hostages. And in many cases, it has.
Yeah, the nearly 1,300. So that's a factor, because I think we need to have a balanced conversation about it.
Word association game. One issue you wish we were focused on instead of Israel, what would it be?
I'd gotta say, continue on the border.
Border.
Deportations.
Housing.
Housing.
Families.
How many of you guys at least get the impression that
it is incredible that so many of these young people have had their brains sufficiently warped where they're like, yeah, undocumented immigrants are a bane on this country. And it's like, y'all have never been like threatened by an undocumented person in your life. Y'all are of a sufficient economic class where like you are like bringing them in to do landscaping on your estate. You're like bringing them in to like cook your meals. You're bringing them in to like make your beds. Like, you guys benefit from their labor all day, every day. Late Bloomer, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you're here. Like, these people benefit in a myriad of different ways from undocumented labor, and they're still just again, they're all criminals, but they're not. But they're not. Understand that and I talk about this a little bit, right?
I'm so glad you're here.
Late Bloomer, again, thank you. But I've talked about this a little bit, but the severity of breaking, like going over the border and being undocumented is on par with getting a speeding ticket. It doesn't make you a felon. It doesn't make you a criminal. There are plenty of law-abiding people who get speeding tickets, right? And there are also, like I don't think if someone told you that they had a speeding ticket, I don't think you would not hire them for a job. I don't think you would hold it against them. I'm pretty sure y'all have driven over the speed limit at some point in your lives and understand that, like, sometimes people drive a little bit over the speed limit, right? And so all of that being said, like, they still think that undocumented immigrants are a huge threat to them in some way. But undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than native-born American. So, like, I just don't understand this fear-mongering bullshit. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. If you actually gave a shit about this issue, if you actually read the studies, if you actually had anything fueling that aside from naked bigotry, you wouldn't be like, my number one issue is the border and deporting people. Like, that wouldn't be your main thing.
Israel matters more than having young people be able to own homes? Raise your hand.
It's divide and conquer. We can do a lot of things. This is why there's so many cabinet secretaries. This is why we have a government that...
Damn, it's true. You can pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. That's a great point, especially if you have, millions of workers doing those jobs.
Can do a lot of things is because we can focus on foreign stuff and we can also focus on domestic stuff. I personally am pretty all right with a lot of what we have been doing, but I do understand where a lot of Gen Z is coming from with a lot of this, because like I said, we can't buy homes, we can't
afford anything.
We can't really afford anything. So
do you guys see Jew hate increasing amongst your generation?
I think that there's a lot of collusion between criticism and hate. I think that there is legitimate hate out there, but a lot of criticism is being framed as hatred, or you don't support this because you're criticizing it. And that's like, I think that that's a little inseparable from what the left
do you guys
does.
think it's anti-Semitic to say you don't like Bibi Netanyahu?
No.
No.
I don't believe so.
There is a rise of Jew hate, but it's not the majority mover. I think the majority mover of Gen Z and Gen Z conservatives is exhaustion.
Precisely.
Would you guys think that's a fair categorization?
I want him to elaborate on that.
Yes, for sure. I mean, again, there is like an isolated, like, weirdo, I hate Jews.
Yeah, I think he meant conflation, Mr. Malachite.
We don't like that. No one in decent society wants that. But instead, it's kind of like, can we just, I don't know, make it so I can buy a home?
Yeah.
Or like deport people?
Exactly.
Yeah. We were already deporting people. How is this your number one thing? How is your number one thing? We gotta get the soccer moms who've been in this country for 40 years and have green cards. We gotta get them out. How is that your number one thing? That's crazy. There's something weird about him using the term Jew hate instead of anti-Semitism. I agree with you, Jazz Dog, 100%. Like, I feel like there is a bit of like he wants to be edgy in there, you know?
Does that resonate with you?
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're not anti-Israel. You don't wish them harm. You're not, like cheering on Iran.
No, I support.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Spitfire. In their minds, deporting people or having shelter are equally important. Like, I don't understand how immiserating a certain group of people that you don't like is as important to you as having shelter. That's insane.
I think they're our ally. I want them.
But you would be called an anti-Semite by some people for saying this.
And I think that's ridiculous. I don't hate Jews because I think a nation should defend themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever.
I feel like it's becoming like the word racism. Like, we just disagree with them, so we just have to call them a name. I don't think they're actually anti-Semitic. I think people just can't agree with them and they can't prove them wrong. So they just throw a word out and be like, you're anti-Semitic because you...
Yes, because all bigotry doesn't exist, you see. The term bigotry is just when you don't have an argument anymore. Haha. Checkmate, atheists.
Think that we should stop sending our money there.
Something that I see amongst the people I'm around, I do see more like general disdain towards, just being honest, Jewish people.
That's correct.
Just because they're constantly being told that you hate Jews. And it's like, fine. If you're going to say I hate Jews over and over and over again, like, if I'm going to be convicted of the crime, I might as well do the crime.
I think that says an awful lot about the group of people you're hanging out with, is if their response to, hearing people like them being called like racist or anti-Semitic, that they're like, okay, time to be racist and anti-Semitic then. Like, I'm sorry, a normal person just goes, well, I'm not those things, and I'm going to continue to live my life. You don't actually just go, oh, you called me a racist? Time to drop the N-word now. Like, that's not, that kind of indicates that they were right? God.
Fear the same thing happens with all the talk of race. The more we talk about it, the more we bring it up, the more racism actually.
I love that Charlie is just like, yeah, of course. When they keep calling you racist, you get to say the N-word. Yeah, I love being called racist. Like, Charlie Kirk is just like, yes, you get it, queen.
Happen.
This is like, I try to tell. Thank you for saying this.
That's right. If you keep calling conservatives Nazis, they're gonna start Sieg Heiling and hating Jews to own the libs. You see. I'm sorry, that's a stupid comment. If people being mean to you turns you into a Nazi, you were already a Nazi. If people saying something rude to you changes your entire worldview, it didn't actually change your worldview. You were already bigoted. Like, I'm sorry, but the idea that like, hey, you're transphobic, like, just suddenly turn someone into a transphobe. No, it doesn't. Hey, you're racist, suddenly turn someone into a no. God, imagine ceding so much power to liberals, right? Like, they're like, oh yeah, liberals keep calling me racist and it made me racist. Crazy. Like, y'all giving liberals the power to completely change your ideology. So if we start telling you how big and smart and wonderful and like cool and totally not racist you are, you guys are going to get less racist? Is that how that works? Was the secret to like dissolving the Ku Klux Klan actually just, tell them that they weren't actually racist? No, actually.
It's like, because like, this is, I'm trying to tell these people and they're like, we must get more aggressive. And so like, let me ask a question. If we were to remove, like if people said what Tucker said is anti-Semitic, I don't hold that view. But it's like a lot of people on Twitter are like calling us out and like, whatever. That's not going to happen. But if we were to cancel Tucker, would anti-Semitism increase or decrease?
I think increase, because that means any supporter of Tucker Carlson's statement therefore makes them anti-Semitic.
Guilt and association, 100%.
Exactly.
But the binary that's presented is that if you don't passionately talk about it, you are a hater. That's probably destructive for everybody involved. So for me, I'm trying to find this new path, which is I love Israel. I visited there. My wife and I had the best experiences ever. I saw where Jesus rose from the dead and he walked on water. But also I'm an American and I represent a generation that can't afford anything and that we are like flooded with illegals and no one speaks English and our hospital.
We're flooded with illegals. Yeah, where did the illegals hurt you, Charlie? Where did all of these hordes of undocumented people like hurt you? Like, what did they do to make your life worse? What did they do to make anybody's life in this country worse? If you start pointing out like, well, some undocumented immigrants did some crimes, well, yeah, a lot more native-born Americans do a lot more crimes proportionally. So like, I just, what did they do to you? Because genuinely, what it seems like to me, a lot of these people are upset about is that they encountered someone in public who was speaking Spanish and they didn't understand what was being said and they resent that and they're mad about it. And so their solution is, hey, let's get rid of all of the people who look like this so that we don't have to try to understand or worry that they're speaking Spanish. Because, hey, if they're speaking Spanish, how do we know that they aren't saying something mean about us? What if they're calling us bigots? We can't let them speak non-English here. They got to get out. Like, this is just naked bigotry. Like, I hope you guys understand that. Also, again, America doesn't have an official language. Never has.
Are clogged. I think we need to have the prudence to reject the Jew hate. Like, okay, we're not going to put up with that. That's dumb. But also, if you call everyone an anti-Semite, if they don't take a puritanical view of the Netanyahu government, then I think it's bad for everybody.
So,
or, you know, you could have like a grounding in principles. You know, you could just have principles, I guess.
would you guys all basically safe to say welcome us not talking about Israel nearly as much?
Yes.
100%. Every day.
A cope that is often found in broken institutions. And I found this now over 13 years. It's a great truism. You guys can learn it for the rest of your life. Anybody that tells you we have a messaging problem, you should go a step deeper and ask another question. Being like, what, are you actually doing something wrong? Or are you bad at messaging it? Because people that are doing bad stuff will sometimes be like, well, we're just not presenting it correctly. Sometimes that's true. Or sometimes there actually might be something beneath.
Notice how, by the way, none of that actually was like, do you guys think that Israel is conducting a genocide? No, notice how they just talked around like the entire basis of criticism towards the Israeli government at this particular point in time. You know, the main thrust of the criticism is that they are doing a genocide, that they are starving the civilian population of Gaza, that they are in the process of enacting plans to create settlements across the Gaza Strip. Like, not a single word breathed about any of that. Just like kind of mealy-mouthed bullshit.
The surface that you're not doing well. So do you guys think that it's a messaging problem or that it's an actual material concept problem?
Yeah. It's a values and priorities problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a messaging problem. These politicians, they don't need to be car salesmen. You know, we need the truth. We need the direct truth.
These politicians, they don't need to be car salesmen. Then why the fuck did you elect Donald J. Trump? One of the biggest... Dude has off the charts on like sleazy car salesman vibes.
And nothing but the truth. But these politicians, they're not truthful. You know, they're digging Gen Z down in the dirt.
Who represents you?
Oh yeah, no, Kaname Kun the Alpha. We are winning on this issue. Understand that like all those young people out there being like, yeah, we need to criticize Israel, especially in Charlie Kirk's orbit, that does translate to we the left are winning on this issue.
Best outside of Trump. Well, thank you. That's great.
I don't do that just for the sake of it either. I mean, you're here involving us for a reason because we are the important group. We're going to inherit all of these issues. So
no, again, the reason I'm doing this is that the reason we're doing this focus group, and Andrew will attest, I've been trying to tell them that there is an earthquake coming.
Oh, that's right. Donald Trump literally held an event to sell cars at the White House earlier this year, to sell the Nazi Hitler cars, those Tesla monstrosities. God, I forgot about that. Everything's computer. How could I forget?
On this issue and in the country, and they don't believe me, So I'm like, why don't you just hear it from people themselves?
If we don't get young conservatives in, we're going to end up losing to the Democratic Party, because they're starting to get the younger generation involved within their representation. And it's just, if we don't start getting these young people from our generation or the next generation above us into Congress.
I'm sorry, we gotta just real quick.
Wow. That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. That's beautiful.
Anyway.
Then we're going to start losing.
When this debate pops up on your social media feed or on campus, what is the most persuasive pro-Israel point that you have seen or heard?
Talk about more about how they help us with intelligence, especially with this new conflict with Iran. If you want to use that, say like, hey, Israel's very helpful in us deflecting with Iran and giving us influence over them because we can have more intelligence.
Do you find it persuasive?
Or, you know, we could use any of the dozen or so spy agencies we have, I guess.
When the Israeli Tourism Board is bragging about how many gay pride parades they have in Tel Aviv, does that make you more pro-Israel? So what else is
No, it actually makes us hate Israel even more.
Is persuasive for you?
I would try to educate about Islamic terrorism. I think that's major, especially with the fact that we lived through 9/11. I think a lot of people in my generation don't understand how big of a situation it was. We know nothing about it.
We also, you know, it's weird. We also lived through like countless school shootings and like the Oklahoma City bombing, and like weirdly we haven't done anything about like white evangelical nationalist terrorism in this country. It's weird that we haven't, just a thought to put out there.
Most part.
I think maybe one other point maybe is about the Holy Land as well. You could make a point going to the Holy Land, filming videos and say Israel's a better protector of the Holy Land than if there was a Palestinian.
It's the argument I make more than anything else.
I was going to follow up.
Palestinians lived there for literally centuries, and they took care of those sites just fine. There were Christians there who were allowed to take care of those sites. What are you talking about?
That's my biggest argument. Keep going.
When the United States is like a mostly Christian country, not all Christian obviously, but a mostly Christian country, a lot of people can sympathize that is the Holy Land, that is where Jesus Christ lived and was crucified.
And rose from the dead, yes sir.
Islamic terrorism that's a better messaging because
they like the city of Bethlehem like canceled Christmas like a year or so ago because of the assaults that were happening on the Palestinians of Gaza.
It connects Israel. It's a threat to Israel and the United States together at the same time. So it brings it home to people.
One of the conversations we've had is that this Holy Land thing, there is a hunger for the Holy Land. For the
Oh God, are we trying to resurrect modern crusades? We doing some Eric Prince shit?
Old things. The key. Yeah, the old things, the ancient things. I think so much of modern life feels very transient and new.
And also just the stability of it for being there for 2,000 years. And also the fact that it's really just been the bedrock of traditionalism. And I think you talked about in your speech about how there's a lot of liberal evangelical churches. So it's like, how can I get to a more traditional style of life?
I mean,
I'm sorry, but like just the concept of like these sites existing is like the bedrock of your traditional values. Seems like your values are pretty hollow. I don't know.
Catholic as well, and grown up Catholic. And one of the biggest things that I do like is that Israel holds the roots of a lot of Western religion, and that it is critical for.
I mean, oh man, this is rough. This is rough. Judaism and Christianity may share some commonalities, but they are very different religions.
Us as Americans to keep them.
So this is very important, and we're going to have to close here, is that American evangelicals tend to be very, very pro-Israel. Younger Catholics tend to not be. But what you're both doing, soon to be Catholic, current Catholic, you're saying that, hey, if you talked more about the Holy Land, the place, the environment, the reality, the artifacts, right, the discoveries, where Christ our Lord bled in the Catholic Church, the Via Dolorosa is a big deal, right? It's huge. The Stations of the Cross. Catholicism is a very tactile religion. You'd think that that actually is more persuasive than any theological argument being like, this holy land must be protected.
I love that it's like, yeah, you need to go there because we built like impressive buildings to like support our story, right? But he's literally even saying reject theology as a concept and embrace just the existence of these churches and buildings that are old, because by virtue of the fact that they are old, they are true, which is not how truth works.
So we can access, that we can worship, that we can prove, and we don't want a bunch of Muslims taking this place over like they did with Bethlehem. Do you think that is...
Like they did with Bethlehem. Also, Muslims did control that region for hundreds of years, and those sites were fine. People were allowed to travel and go there to visit those sites, even when Muslims controlled that area. This attempt to create a dichotomy where like, oh yeah, if the Muslims control this, they'll just destroy everything. That's not true. It's not backed up by the historical record, and it is just Islamophobia. It is just naked Islamophobia, full on, full stop. Like what I find interesting about this is that Charlie Kirk is trying to use this to wash his claims of anti-Semitism away while embracing Islamophobia. Like, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make Islamophobia more acceptable to the conservative right. Not that it takes much prodding to do that, but he's basically trying to redirect the conversation to how evil and bad Muslims are, you know? You'd be surprised. I would not actually be surprised at how many people hate Muslims in this country. I'm well aware. But like it is just him saying, no, guys, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm Islamophobic.
A winning argument for evangelicals, for Christians, more so than gay pride parades in Haifa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, again, just worth reiterating that Israel doesn't actually allow gay marriage. So they're like, oh man, there are gay pride parades. It must be so woke there. There are gay pride parades in like Hungary, and like they just tried to make being like publicly queer illegal. So like I don't know, these people suck.
Thank you guys for your time.
Ugh. Ay. Yeah, I mean, it does boil down to like, oh, they're darker skinned than I am, therefore they're bad. But like my argument, I guess, would be that like, while it has been traditionally pretty acceptable in American society to be Islamophobic, what Charlie Kirk is doing is a deliberate effort to bring it back to like 9/11 levels, like post 9/11, right? He even invoked 9/11 in there, I believe. I recall him saying something along those lines. He wants to bring it back to that level because it's been on the decline, my understanding, since 9/11. You know, it spiked and then has been kind of on the downslide. He wants to recenter the Islamophobia in the American right as like a guiding star for them. So I understand that it is acceptable to a degree, but I think he wants to push that degree up from being merely acceptable to being actively supported. You know, he wants to bring back the era when politicians were passing Sharia law bans in like Kansas. So fucking dumb. Oh, one of the women mentioned living through 9/11. Yeah, I just what I think is happening is the attempt to redirect this so that like he can absolve himself of appearing like an anti-Semite because he says things that are anti-Semitic all the time, and also reframe the conversation around actually what we need to be talking about is what the who controls the physical Holy Land, because obviously Christians and Jews need to control that against the scary Muslims. It's the same argument, by the way, made by a lot of the leaders of the Crusades. It's the same argument, except that the leaders of the Crusades also were anti-Semitic. Ask yourself why people who pay him want to talk like this. Well, genuinely, it's because people like Eric Prince support Charlie Kirk, right? Eric Prince has long, as a billionaire mercenary company owner, sought to reignite a crusade in the Middle East. And so, like, there's moneyed interests here that want to go to war against the Muslims, so to speak, in the area. That is my take. Folks, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Do the things. We did it. We made it through the Charlie Kirk being an awful dipshit segment.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.